Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, will deliver a brief statement ahead of this afternoon's Security Council session centered on the return of hostages abducted in conflict. We are also honored to be joined by Leah and Chemi Goldin, mother and brother of Hadar Goldin, who was killed by Hamas terrorists in 2014 and whose body is still held in Gaza more than a decade later. After Leah speaks, Ambassador Danon will take some questions. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. I stand today with Leah and Menachem Goldin, the mother and brother of Hadar Goldin. Hadar was murdered by Hamas nearly 11 years ago during a ceasefire brokered by the United Nations and the United States. That ceasefire was meant to allow for a humanitarian pause in the fighting. Instead, Hamas used it to ambush Hadar's unit, murder him, and kidnap him. Almost 11 years have passed, 11 years of unanswered questions, 11 years of being denied the most basic right, the right to bury their son. And why? Because Hamas does not simply kill, it desecrates. They do not just hold the fallen, they monetize them. Hamas steals the bodies of our fallen heroes and turns them into bargaining chips. They store them in tunnels, they use them to negotiate, to delay, to profit. It is not just cruelty, it is an industry, a system, a strategy. Hamas has created an economy of death. To them, a son or a daughter are no different than cash in hand. They are not treated with respect, they are treated like inventory. Today we will speak about it in the Security Council. It is not a political issue. It is not a regional dispute. It is a moral issue, a universal one. Across every culture, every religion, and every civilization, there is one sacred truth that binds us. The dead must be laid to rest. You can find it in Judaism, in Christianity, and in Islam. The grieving must be allowed to grieve. Every parent deserves to bury their child. But the Goldin family has been denied that right, because to Hamas, a body is not a loved one, it is a tool. This should not only outrage the members of the Security Council today, it should shock the conscience of the entire world. Today, the State of Israel repeats its pledge. We will never stop fighting to bring our people home, in life or in death. That is our duty, that is our promise, and we will fulfill it. Now, it is my honor to invite Leah Goldin to speak.
My name is Leah Goldin, and I'm the mother of Lieutenant Hadar Goldin, who was killed and abducted by Hamas during a ceasefire on August 1st, 2014, a ceasefire that was brokered by the United States and by the United Nations. For nearly 11 years, my son's body has been held in Gaza by terrorist organizations that exploits humanitarian frameworks for political gain, and for nearly 11 years, the international community has looked away. In 2019, United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 2474, which imposed a clear responsibility that UN member states must act to remember remains of the deceased to their families for burial as a confidence-building measure in any agreement following armed conflict, be it a ceasefire or peace accord. It called upon all parties to armed conflict to prevent disappearance, account for the missing, and support the dignity of families living in uncertainty. The words of that resolution were powerful, but words alone do not bring our children home. In the years since its adoption, Resolution 2474 has been forgotten its principles ignored, its enforcement non-existent. The very institution that brokered the ceasefire under which Adar was taken has yet to uphold its own responsibility to correct the injustice that followed. That is not just a diplomatic failure, it is a moral one. This is not about politics, this is not about negotiation, this is about the right of a mother to bury her son. When the United Nations passed a resolution, it must mean something. It must be backed by will, by consistency, by action. Instead, we have silence, and in that silence, justice has been denied, not only to my family, but to every family who places trust in the promises of the international law. There are now dozens of families like mine in Israel alone, families who live with the ache of not knowing, not being able to mourn, not being able to move forward. This resolution was meant for us, and yet it remains dormant. I call on the United Nations and its member states enforce Resolution 2474, not selectively, not symbolically, but seriously. Demand the return of the missing, demand accountability, demand the dignity that every human being deserves in life and in death. I call on the United Nations and the United States to return my son Hadar to be buried in his homeland, Israel, by implementing Resolution 2474. Because if the UN cannot enforce the very resolutions it adopts, then what hope is there for those who look to it for protection? Do not let this resolution fade into irrelevance. Let it stand, let it speak, let it bring Adar home. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you. And we'll be watching that this afternoon. We all received the announcement that the Gaza Humanitarian Fund will be starting work. Can you tell us who will fund it, and how much involvement will the United States, Israel, or any other government or military have in controlling life-saving aid to Palestinian civilians?
Thank you for that question. You know, I have been calling to the United Nations to be involved. They speak so much and so highly about the humanitarian issues in Gaza. And here you have a fund led by the United States, ready to go. It will start to operate very soon, and it will be run by the fund itself. Israel will not be involved inside the operation center. We will not be the one giving the aid. We will not be even in those centers. It will be run by the fund itself, led by the US, and I'm happy that a few NGOs joined these efforts. And I'm calling to the Secretary General to recalculate his approach and to think if he really wants to be involved in the humanitarian aid in Gaza, he should sit down with the head of the fund, with the US mission here, and understand what is going to happen. It's a major operation that will start very soon to operate.
Excuse me, will the US and Israel be funding it as it starts out?
So I can speak on behalf of Israel. We will not fund those efforts. We will facilitate them. We will enable them. You know, some of them will have to cross through territory that we operate, but we will definitely not fund them.
Ambassador, from U.S. News. Thank you for bringing the Golden to speak with us. On the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation or Fund, GHF, is there a plan to allow the UN agencies to deliberate until it is set up, since the situation, as even Israel has said, is dire? And will those 5 or so
Well, first, that will be the initial stage, those 5 centers. I believe it will be expanded in the future. But I think the UN should understand that what happened in the past will not continue. We will not allow Hamas to take advantage of the fund. We have seen what happened in the past when UNRWA or other agencies try to be involved. We welcome the involvement of UN agencies, but they will have to work with the fund, and the fund will make sure that the aid will go to the people. The packages will be much smaller. It's not going to be containers like we saw in the past. It's going to be packages per families. So we do encourage the UN agencies to be involved and to engage with the fund.
Ambassador, a follow-up on this trilogy with China Central Television. UN officials said that they had engagements with Israel for over 12 times on this issue about this upcoming plan. What is the major problem between UN and Israel?
Well, I don't know about that. You know, I listened to Mr. Fletcher remarks at the Security Council the other day, and I can tell you that he visited Israel, but he had no discussion about that fund because it was way back. And in the last few weeks, there was no dialogue about that. So I would expect UN officials to engage. When they want to speak about issues, they know how to reach us. They know how to reach the US mission. We are here to engage.
They haven't reached out for...
No, they haven't reached out. They got some information from the media, I assume. But I think they should look into that and to realize that if they want to be involved, that is the way to be involved.
Okay,
Ambassador, the foundation has asked Israel to expand the distribution points to the north of Gaza. Has Israel agreed to that? It has also asked Israel to restart humanitarian deliveries now under the existing procedures until the foundation is set up. Has Israel agreed to that? When will humanitarian deliveries into Gaza restart?
Well, I'm not familiar with those requests. Maybe they went directly to Jerusalem. But I will tell you that, you know, we appreciate the effort of the United States. We work with the United States, and we make the distinction between those who actually want to be involved in the humanitarian efforts and those who want to accuse Israel and put slander against us. And I think the fund is a good initiative that will actually allow us to move forward and will weaken Hamas control in Gaza.
Ambassador, another topic.
Last one, please.
Yeah, okay. President Trump just announced the cessation of sanctions on Syria, and also he met with the leader of the current Syrian government. What's Israel's position on this announcement?
Well, it is a U.S. decision. You know, we said earlier when Europe decided to lift sanctions that it was too early. We should look at the actions of the new regime, to look at the way they treat the minorities, the Druze minority, the Kurds, and to take it slowly. But, you know, we happen to live there, and so for us, we take it slower, we are more careful, but as I said earlier, it is a U.S. decision. Thank you very much. Thank you.